Texas is passing some laws where chaplains get to be counselors in schools, and we're about to talk about it and get your thoughts on the other side. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the South Star Classroom. I hope y'all can hear me okay. Y'all give me a thumbs up if you can. Cool. I'm also on like the new Mac OS. So like if I do little things, like the camera's supposed to do stuff, it ain't working right now. But there we go.
Oh crazy. Wow.
I know. It's pretty cool. But welcome for y'all that are listening only and can't see. My computer just did some cool stuff that I didn't ask for it to do, but I want to get into check-ins and see how everybody's week has been. It's been a while since we have all talked, so we will start with Miss Jube. How you doing today, Jube? With the first off, like we did this to David last week about his collar. We do this to Omar every week with his stellar, beautiful hair. Miss Jube is radiant today. I don't know what she got going on, but the melanin is like, you know, on 10 right now. She's glowing out here. So how are you doing, Jewel? Sing it, oh.
A vision of perfection.
It's the greatest song of all time. Hop on one leg. So go ahead. I'm sorry. A big dog.
Sorry.
You're muted.
I said my favorite part. Thank you very, very much. The melanin is popping. I appreciate it. It's definitely not from resting. It's not from resting. It's the glory of the Lord mixed with fatigue. So whatever you get when you mix that together, is why my melanin is popping today. Thank you so much. And Omar, thank you for singing one of my favorite songs. I was singing along with you, especially the part that says "Totally Free from Infection." Woo! Oh man,
David, I don't want to assume either way. Do you know what we going off about right now? Do you know what this moment is?
No, I don't.
Okay, it is from just one of the greatest, most quotable movies of all time, Coming to America, when Eddie Murphy was getting married. Yeah. When he was supposed to get married, and
the classic.
It is definitely a classic. Omar brought it though. That was Omar bringing it.
Oh man,
I'll bring it every time, man.
Oh my goodness,
that song. That's how radiant she is.
Thank you. You guys got to give us like a brown movie to watch, and we got to give you a black movie to watch. You know?
Omar got all the black movies. Omar is the one that always got the black culture references.
Listen, I just learned that there's a few black movies. Now I didn't lose my black card, but there's a few black movies that I have not seen, and I actually was going to send you the list, Charles, to see. But one of them is Claudine. You heard of Claudine? No.
I heard of Claudine.
I've never seen it. You seen it?
No, I've not seen Claudine.
It don't count. It ain't up there. It ain't up there with Friday or like Coming to America. Like these things, if you don't see, and people like you ain't seen.
Those are on the comedy side. So apparently, there's some black movies connected to the socio-political side.
Five Heartbeats, a whole Temptations. What's love got to do with it?
I see that.
But that ain't in there. But go ahead.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to send you the list, and then you can go ahead and
we should do a show on the list.
Yeah,
we should do a show where we give. I would want to know what's the list, but we should do a whole show on the black and brown list. That would be dope.
I would love to. And Miss Toya, I don't disagree that the movie is great. I'm just saying, you're not gonna get kicked out of a barbecue because you didn't see that movie. There are movies that if you did not see, you out of here.
I'm just saying, I think it's based on the era you're from, because the person that was talking to me about it was growing up in the 70s and the 80s. I was born in the 80s.
Listen, Toya's right here. So Toya got your back. She is saying,
okay.
Yeah.
Right. So like I I'm Gonna Get You Sucker is one of them. I saw that. A couple of Richard
Dude, I
Pryor
just
videos.
quoted that today.
I saw that.
told
I
him,
mean,
my man,
but there's
like,
a couple
Slade,
of joints with Sidney
the Commando
Poitier in
shoe.
there, Sidney Poitier and Bill Cosby that were like classics. And
Yeah.
you know, I didn't see them all. So anyway, I got some homework to do. I'm doing great. My melanin is popping, and I'm great. How are you all doing?
We are good. We're
and I
gonna
got a
go.
cocktail.
We're gonna go to our motto, our resident motto. You know, in the top, my top right. How you doing, brother Omar? How you been, man?
Oh man, it's been a crazy ass week, man. Like we got, I got to keep it generalized, but we are in the midst of fixing a lot of things going on at our East Side campus, trying to get it significantly better. August is just a weird month, man. I feel like you have all these plans over the summer and then you start implementing them, but then it comes out into like the real life of how things go. So we're tweaking with that. But I got to tell you, anytime that we're talking about Black and brown cinema, I am like in. Here's the problem, and I think it's worth a show. I can sit here and talk about the Mac and Superfly and Black Dynamite and Do the Right Thing and Jungle Fever and Malcolm X and like the amazing Black cinema, but like I'm at a standstill because you're like brown movies, and I'm like American Me, La Bamba, Blood and Blood Out. They're all like Cholo movies, dude.
Yeah,
Selena?
we talked about this last week, right?
Bitty, bitty, bum, bum.
Selena.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
other
look,
than Selena. Exactly. But the demos, like, nah,
look,
dude.
Selena had black people in
dude.
the chokehold.
Oh.
Black people love Selena. That movie probably more than y'all do. Like
Yes.
they love Selena. That
I love
Jennifer Lopez
Anything
He
for
did it.
Selena.
every day of her life. Every
did
day of Jennifer Lopez's life, she should thank the Wayans brothers for In Living Color and Selena.
Yes.
And
Those
they
are
need
the
to
two.
bring In Living Colors. They need to bring In Living Color
Yeah.
back. Like that's Black history.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
So
it
many.
is. I
Jim
agree.
Carrey, J Lo. I mean, so many. The Wayans Empire. I do
Dude,
think
everybody,
we need to do
David
media.
Allen
We need to do
Greer,
TV
Tommy
media for Black and brown.
Davidson,
That's
every
hilarious.
weigh-in, all 500 of them.
All
I
five.
Was it a Jim?
Damon?
Was Jim Carrey on that one too?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Fire
It broke-
Marshal Bill.
It broke
Everything's
Jim.
happening.
It broke Jim Carrey, Damon
He was
Wayans,
crazy.
Kenan Ivory Wayans,
Marlon
uh,
Wayans,
Jamie
Sean
Foxx.
Wayans. Sean
Yeah.
was the DJ.
He was a DJ. Jennifer
Alan
Lopez
Greer.
was a fly girl.
Yeah. Jamie
Rosie,
Foxx, hell yeah, dude.
Rosie
Yes.
Perez. Rosie
Rosie
Perez was she was the choreographer and the dancer. Yeah, man.
Lit.
Whew, big
Yeah.
We
show.
don't talk about them enough.
That's what's up. I do. I
And then
love
they
it.
got rid of it. They got rid of it.
They need to bring it
Yeah.
back.
And they also are the reason there's a Super Bowl halftime show. So what they did was they ran a show during the 20 minutes of the Super Bowl, and they saw how many viewers they lost the network, and then from then on, you now have they got Michael Jackson to do the Super Bowl the year after, I think. So that's how that was all because of Kenan Ivory Wayans.
That's a cool history.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, other than that, Omar, you hanging in there, man? Anything we can do for you?
No, man, I'm good. I'm like, I am chief problem solver, man. I am here. I'm solving the problems. We got David coming and providing some level of support. So it's just one of those waves where I am good. Like this weekend, I got to rest. I got to play a video game for the first time in like, I don't know, years. Play that old South Park video game, cracked my shit up, felt good. It's great, man.
That's what's up.
Gonna go out to dinner with some big picture learning folks tonight and start revolutionizing the world back over again, man.
So
There you go.
This is the third show in a row he's mentioned those people. Big picture learning. I hope y'all know that Omar Yanar loves y'all because he has talked about y'all
every
3
show.
weeks in a row. David, how are you, brother? We didn't get a caller today. What's going on?
No, we got a caller. You got a caller.
Oh, okay. Hey, he kept it going.
Yeah, it's nice.
Let's see. I played some video games last night too for the first time.
What'd you play?
I downloaded a new snowboarding game called Shredders. So it's like, a sports game. There's a mountain biking game that we play called Descenders. So everything is going downhill. And then I like playing Flight Simulator too. It's very relaxing.
That's what's up, man. I
Like
tend to play
flying a big
sports games.
747. Yeah, I like
That's
that.
nice.
But yeah, also speaking of movies, we're my son is 13 now, going on like 18, and so we're trying to introduce him to movies from like back in the day, from like the good movies from like the 70s, early 80s, some of the 90s. And so we use a website called Common Sense Media. Like they'll have even if a movie was rated R, you can go to this website and you can punch in a movie, and they have feedback from kids. It's rated R, but kids say it's good for 16, and the parents say it's good for 17 or whatever. So as long as we're within a 2-year age range, we're like, okay, he can do
Hold
it.
on there.
But it's interesting that you bring this up, because our next movie up is Coming to America. Like when I grew up, we didn't have like our big like comedy canon, both stand up and in film. It was all like pretty much black entertainers, growing up with like Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, the whole Living Color world, and then Chappelle and everything, and then in film too. So I would love to dive into that kind of a show. And then it's the beginning of the school year. I don't know if this is what Omar is alluding to, but we've been in school for a couple of weeks now, and I put out a message to all of my kids' teachers. I'm feeling the need. Maybe we'll have to do the next like 2 weeks, kind of an annual show of like back to school. If you're a parent, like here are 5 things that you can do to support your child, because I emailed all of my kids' teachers and they all got back to me, which was great. And then all of a sudden I realized like 2 of them are still not entering grades. It's like 3 weeks in. There's like 0 grade information in the grade book, right? And I'm like, the grade book is how we communicate, right? And so my fear is that, like teachers are sitting on a stack of papers, and then the 3rd week they're going to enter a bunch of grades, and you're going to see a bunch, who knows what you're going to see, right? But it makes it challenging to stay on top of your student, your kids, if you don't have that information. So I've got to do some proactive work just to make sure that everything's okay. But it's gotten me thinking that maybe when my next show is up, we'll do like a back to school special for parents, and like how they can,
I like it.
What can they do? 5 questions you can ask your teachers. What are 5 things that you can do to make sure that you're set up for the year? Because I'm having to do that right now. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Got you, man. That's what's up. I'm happy to hear that. Down to look for that. And somebody asked what we were talking about. This is episode 108, and we're going to talk about should chaplains be able to be public school counselors. I probably didn't need to capitalize chaplains, but it's all good. Toya, you can come be a guest with us anytime you like.
Yeah,
please.
For my check-in, we're a little bit behind, so I'll go quickly. I'm very excited that this will be happening. I will be in Connecticut. And I will be doing a all-day workshop training on the Black Agentic Parent Workbook with a bunch of parents there. And then I think I have to do Memphis, but also our own Mama Toya is hosting her own session in Philadelphia coming up soon. So, if that's something that people want to support, we are trying to find some gift cards or something for some of those parents, whether it's so they can get groceries or Starbucks or whatever the case is, to just be in support of that. These shows in Connecticut and other places has a sponsor. The one that Miss Toya is doing does not. So I'm excited about it. I don't know why my name changed back from Existential Crisis, because the crisis is not over, but it's fine. We're going to be having this all year. It's all good. But today there is, this happened maybe about a week or so ago. Texas is passing some laws. They've actually passed a few different laws, right?
Hell yeah, they passed a shitload. I'm happy to share them with you.
Right. But we just chose one of those laws to discuss today, because I think we've been doing a really good job of picking good topics that have taken us over, and this one probably will as well. So instead of cramming in a bunch of laws, we're going to focus on this one about chaplains being able to be public school counselors in the state of Texas. And I want to make this easier for people. So I have a video, and we'll just watch the video. That way we can get the context. And then when we come back, I want to hear from each of you, your reactions.
Representatives wanted to put some extra amendments in the bill, but bottom line, public and charter schools across the state of Texas will be able to have counselors or have chaplains work alongside counselors or work in place of counselors, and every single school board across the state must vote yes or no to having a chaplain. And these chaplains must pass background checks. They also must meet Department of Defense standards, which means they have to be endorsed by a religious organization and have specific education. School counselors in Texas must have a master's degree, 2 years of teaching in the classroom, and pass a counselor certification exam. Now, the author of the bill stressed that it will be up to each individual school board to decide on whether to hire or who they want to hire as a chaplain. Now, some representatives expressed some concerns about this potentially endorsing one single religion and wanted the bill to require parental consent, as well as an option for students to request a chaplain of their specific faith. But those changes didn't make it in the bill.
I think we need to give our school districts every tool that we can in the toolbox with all that we've been experiencing with mental health issues and catastrophes and crises.
You are a champion for parental rights, so I'm just curious why requiring parental consent before a student can meet with a chaplain is not acceptable to you in this legislation.
Well, we currently do not require parental consent for them to meet with school counselors.
I reached out to the National School Chaplains Association, which testified in support of this bill in committees, just to ask that association, do you keep track of how many public and charter schools across the United States may employ chaplains? I have not heard back. And this is not the only bill that tries to incorporate religion in the classroom here in Texas. One representative wants the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every classroom, but that bill is still pending in committee.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.
All right. So thank you, News Nation, for letting us use your clip. And we gave you all the credit in the world. So YouTube, don't pull us down, please. Fair use, baby, is a real thing. But let's just get general reactions. How are you all feeling about this? And let's start with the actual Texan that is here. And right now we're just doing general reactions. Go wherever you need to go. I'm just very curious how one Omar Yanar took this news.
Dude, so the law's a little convoluted, and I could be wrong about this, but what we discussed in our board meeting, because I run a public charter school organization in Texas, so we have a board. So we discussed this, right? And Doc, I think the law is actually slightly different than they're portraying it. The way we interpreted the law is that every campus must have a chaplain, no matter what. Okay. Now, here's a couple caveats. What they said is that you must have a chaplain, period. The board can make a vote as to decide if there's going to be some leniency in who and what the chaplain is. So, for example, we're going to vote that our school counselors / social workers who actually have degrees, who do actual social emotional counseling, can be designated as our chaplains, right? But then what is going on is that you have another law, Doc, and another law, David, saying if you're a counselor in Texas, you must now supply 85% of your time in actual counseling. Because I don't know if it's different in California, but what counselors do in Texas is not counseling. They are doing scheduling. They are an administrator. They are hired under the auspice of counseling, but actually not doing any counseling whatsoever.
Well, just to be fair, because I didn't see that as a fact, and I just looked, it said the law does not require school districts to employ chaplains. So I don't know. You might be right. You closer to it, but I only want to make sure we just report on those facts that we was able to prove. But continue with your thought. I just saw that, and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't.
I'm glad, that. But I think it's the board that
there you go. I'm sorry.
That's discussing. Good. The board has to decide, and because we have a board, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know about this," you can then say, "Hey, listen, like we're going to do this whole counseling thing." Now, we don't have to worry at EPLA because our counselors are counseling 85% of the time. But what this does, for those of you not in the know, that this is a little bit of insider ball in Texas, again, your counselors are not counseling. So this is a way to get around that, where not only can you have a chaplain who is straight up not certified to do any kind of like real psychological or emotional counseling, because hey, look, man, you want to counsel with Jesus, that's what that church is for. You bring in Jesus as a methodology of counseling outside of like the scientific realm into a school. That's what this does for you. It's like, do it or not, but we're going to introduce these folks. When we were talking about it at the board, I was like, yo, man, what's stopping us from bringing a cat from Islam? Nothing. Not a damn thing, except other than the fact that, like, I think we'd be the most talked about school in the state of Texas if we did. So you've got a interesting scenario where you are finding a way of subverting the requirements to become a counselor, introducing Jesus more into the schools, which I arguably, being from Texas, would definitively tell you that's exactly what Republicans are trying to do. And it's not like I got any problem with Jesus. I just thought we were all clear on this whole separation of church and state thing. And then ultimately, it's like a nice subtle rouge to be like, all right, these counselors can continue doing administrative work, and then these chaplains are either volunteering or a fraction of the cost because they're not licensed, can come in and do your counseling work for you. So, yo, if you're on the show, I want to hear what your thoughts are and comments, because I find it particularly fascinating.
Yeah, and Jube and Dave, jump in. Like I can call on each of you, but I do want this part to be more conversational. Like if we was at the crib and I busted out some wine. I'm
Yeah,
just
man,
curious
listen,
when you
they
saw
want Jesus in the schools, man. They want Jesus there.
There you go.
They want to
like,
invite Jesus.
Listen,
go ahead, Jube.
I don't really think it's about, even though we're talking about Texas, so okay, maybe part of that part of that is right, okay, but this whole thing had me thinking about how I entered into the education realm. Right, I went to school for communication, so and I'm celebrating my 20th year in education. Good old
Ooh, congratulations!
Thank you. Started in 2003. So, oh my God.
Oh, did you see them fireworks?
And then it hung up on it.
So I got a master's degree in urban ed leadership. I got a master's degree in childhood ed, but my bachelor's is in communications with a minor in French. And I didn't know that I was coming to education till I had an epiphany when I studied abroad. And it was extremely hard for me to get into education. But how did I get in? Through what they used to call like a alternate, right, back door, which was New York City Teaching Fellows. New York City Teaching Fellows was created to address the critical teacher shortage back in the early 2000s. There was something like 11,000 teacher vacancies at that time. And so the Teaching Fellows was like, wait, how are we going to help remediate this problem or fix this problem? You know what? Maybe we need to find folks who are interested in making career changes. Maybe we need to find some folks who want to come through the back door. We will figure out certification and training and all of that if they demonstrate this basic skill set, and not basic in terms of not complex, right, or missing the mark, right, but just basic in terms of you need at least this to be able to work with children. We need to know you care. We need to know, right, that you know how to write a lesson plan, blah, 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 right? And so then came this migration from folks that were transitioning to second careers, from law to teaching, from accounting to teaching, from whatever to teaching. And New York City Teaching Fellows was a pathway to that. And if not for that, then education wouldn't have a jubilee in it, right? That was my pathway. And so for me, I look at the this chaplain offering as something like that. Like I understand the whole religious piece, which to me is like a separate conversation. But if you are talking about how do we address this mental health crisis, which we are in a crisis, right? Who else can help us support? Then I think chaplains are the perfect people to support, with boundaries, with guidelines, with training. Do they have this basic skill set? Do they care enough about these things to be able to support our children? And based on what the data is saying, we've got one counselor for every 400 or 450 kids. Come on, like who's really getting help? So why not take people, chaplains in this case, that are willing to make that shift, and we can fix whatever else needs to be fixed after that in terms of training and certification. Oh, and some of these counselors have certifications and have degrees, and they can't counsel worth a damn. So
they ain't counseling shit.
No, they are bubbling things in or whatever, checking and filling out paperwork, but that doesn't mean that they're doing the work. So maybe a chaplain would stand a better chance.
So we talk about, so I think we got to get some definitions down. Omar talked about it, and I'm wrapping my head around. So we're not talking about like college and career counselors. That's like technical work. I'm going to come in, Charles is an 11th grader, and I'm going to work with Charles to figure out what Charles needs in terms of 12th grade credits, and if he needs to make any up, to be able to, graduate. And then that's like it's an academic guidance counselor, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about counselor as in mental health counselors, right?
Correct.
Okay, and
I don't know if it defines. I think it just said counselor.
It does. Everything that I'm seeing is referring to.
It's purposely vague.
What I'm seeing is it's like they're referring to like mental health stuff, and that's not the work of the college counselor, right? So, and then schools do have clinical, psychologists that work as counselors in schools, but most of that work is tied to a smaller percentage of students that might have an IEP or some other like designated need. So what this is talking about is trying to like fill the gap between the two, right? And the larger gap around like dealing with the mental health crisis in schools. That's my understanding of it. My quick take is that I think it's, and maybe I need more help on the definition of chaplain. And chaplain is like it's a term that refers to an individual or like a position within a church. We're talking about Christian churches mainly, right? Yes. That's what I'm seeing. It's not a priest, it's not a pastor. It's like it's a certain position within. I'm sure I don't think the equivalent in Islam is the cleric. That's a different level, or the rabbi in whatever. Right. But I do think it's interesting that I just feel like it's a backdoor, and it's not a good backdoor. And I think it goes back to like this Catholic charter school they're trying to get pushed through in Oklahoma, right? I think you're treading the waters between the First Amendment waters, right? The Establishment Clause, because this is clearly a point where they are working to build a bridge. This is a bridge between the secular and non-secular world. And if we want to rewrite the Constitution, maybe we start there. The better thing to do is probably rethink how we are training and the criteria for getting people trained and the credentialing and the licensing to work in schools for mental health. But this feels like a Band-Aid, and it's or maybe more like a Trojan horse.
Yeah, I think my thoughts are pretty similar. I think one, I actually like the broad level of the thoughts here. I was surprised by that, Jubilee. I appreciate that thought. Here's what I would say, man. I look at these policies like a math equation. And this is what I would tell my friends and my foes politically. Whatever you do on one side, you are freeing up to happen on another side. I think that right now, my thoughts on this was we are in the middle of a culture war. And so there's something that Oklahoma does. And then there's something that California does. And then Florida says, y'all not going to outdo us. And then Florida does their thing. And then Texas is like, we need Jesus in schools. I'm Baptist. I've been Baptist my entire life. I believe in it. I could definitely be a better Christian. I'm a heathen at times. I have to be very honest about that because the good Lord is watching. Be very honest. I'm not the best Christian. I need to work on it. Listen, I really believe that
you got her on that one.
Listen, I really believe that man died on the cross and rose 3 days later. Like, I really believe that, right? So I need to do better. That means I believe that there's a heaven and a hell. So, but I also like there's a First Amendment for a reason. There's a religious freedom for a reason. And again, I went to schools where, look, I went to school in Kentucky, in Chicago, in Oakland. I played sports my whole life. We prayed before every game, even though we probably wasn't supposed to. In my neighborhood, we want the pastor, we want people from that church to come in and volunteer and be a part of that community. But now, if you're saying, hey, these Christian chaplains, well, not these Catholic chaplains can come in and now they are the counselor of that school, then so what does happen when there's a Muslim counselor that wants to do it, or a Jehovah's Witness counselor, and now that line is so blurred. Here's the other thing, because liberals like to troll too. I promise you, if that takes hold and that spreads, you're gonna see a devil worshiping thing that kind of comes, because they're gonna test this law out. No, I'm serious. Like, they're gonna test it out, right? They're going to anytime you pass a policy or a law, just know that the other side can do that. People will probably look at me as a liberal. I've worked for the Democratic Party, and here's the thing: I tend to disagree when my fellow Democrats will say, "Let's expand the Supreme Court," and it's like, I don't think that's a good precedent to set, because then the next time when somebody else gets power, a Republican person gets power, and and the court is shifted, then they get to expand it. And then so now we don't have a Supreme Court. We have a parliament of sorts that's in charge of interpreting the Constitution, which the Constitution, I don't know. I'm surprised. I would be surprised if we didn't see this in some type of Supreme Court, because I think it's directly an affront to the Constitution and the separation of church and state.
Right.
Now, would I mind the extra help? Would I mind those people coming in? If they good people, no. But like Jubilee said, let's not act like all the counselors across America that's in these schools is really out here counseling. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, I mean, there's a hard, long look that we all got to take into the mirror. But Texas is playing a political, cultural war game. I think this is the next move, and it's not just them. It is California. It is Florida. It is New York. It is Oklahoma. We are the bystanders and in the crossfire of a cultural war that will be studied 50 years from now. Yeah. And I'm really interested in how this stuff shakes out.
This is very interesting. I'm just thinking about this now, because really what you're looking, again, we're not talking about bringing people into schools to help students create their academic programs, their course selection, right? Or credit recovery. We're also not asking to bring people into the school to meet the needs, the clinical counseling needs that might be laid out in an IEP. That's separate. We're talking about the vast majority of students, right, that don't have IEPs, that might have some mental health need, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're bringing forward this kind of quick solution at the same time that they're trying to push out social emotional learning and curriculum from schools, which is a very great school-wide intervention when it's done appropriately, to help students, manage their feelings, understand their feelings, kind of, assist them with identifying certain things and, adapting language or getting language so they can be more, so they can start to do, individual work. That's like what social emotional learning is. But there's, at the same time, they're saying no social emotional learning in schools. They're saying, let's bring in religious people to address social emotional learning.
Texas. Like you.
I know, it's crazy.
Very definitive, and the beard of knowledge expanded his knowledge. But man, get to the nitty gritty. This is Texas. Football and God. Football and Jesus. They're bringing in the football. They're bringing in the Jesus. And my question is listen, at some point, I get Jubilee's point, and I want to kind of go along that train. It's hey, cool. Listen, we need help. You want to bring in Jesus in order to help everybody with their social emotional needs and so forth through the Bible, through prayer. Hey, look, there's some communities that probably would love it and appreciate it. All right. And let's go down that path. How far does that path start to go down where then Jesus, religion, and the Bible becomes then the substitute for scientific, emotional, degree needing trauma therapy, where it isn't like, hey man, we just need Jesus. Do we need an empirical analysis? It's like, listen, this school got Jesus, these cats got the scientists, let's see what pops off first. I don't know, but I want to ask you all, like, cool, like, you're getting all the help, you're bringing in Jesus. When does Jesus go too far and
So are you?
start
So
scoring
is Omar?
touchdowns?
So Omar is thoroughly warning us that we are about to have the second coming of the Crusades. It is coming. If you are not aware, and if you don't know what the Crusades are, this is the reason we have this damn show, because education has not been prioritized. I want to stay here, right? But I want to weave in like what and Omar, you did this really well, but I didn't announce it to everybody. I know everybody saw the notes. Like, what do you think that the fallout of this is going to be? And like, will it spread to other states? And also, we have a lot of parents like Miss Toya and folks that have been advocates in schools. Like, what advice do you have for them either way, whether they like or don't like this? I gave you a bunch of things to cherry pick off of, so go where you may. Well, I was gonna go to Jubilee, but Jubilee disappeared. She keep disappearing. But David, you was in there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna throw it to you, right? Like, and I got thoughts on it, but like, what do you think this fallout is gonna be, or if it's gonna spread?
I mean, I think ultimately it's going to end up. I mean, if enough school districts and charter networks end up adopting it, and it ends up happening, it'll eventually get challenged. And so we're talking about them modifying. I don't know if they're modifying a state law or the state's education code, but ultimately, you challenge that, and then it gets sent up the chain of command into the federal system, ultimately to the Supreme Court. And that's where it'll stand the test, the First Amendment test, right? That's how the process works. So they can try crazy shit like they're trying right now, but ultimately, and I don't know about the Supreme Court. I would hate to think how they would argue this, but I do want to pick on Texas for a second, because we're talking about we're talking about a human resource in the form of like counselors that we need, right? And that costs money, and it costs money in training, in preparing them, all of those things, and to pay them. In Texas, there's a school in Clear Creek ISD, Challenger Columbia Stadium. They built the football stadium, cost $39 million. There's a football stadium in Tomball ISD, Texas, they built. It's called District Stadium, $42 million. There's a stadium in Conroe ISD, cost $49 million. Allen ISD has a $60 million stadium, right? Katy ISD has a $70 million.
Yeah.
And there's an $80 million stadium in Texas, high school. So, you talk about, and this is not all public money. They obviously have boosters and they do fundraising.
Absolutely.
But talk about your priorities being thrown off. Come on, man.
Well, I mean, listen, man. What gets those colleges going, brother? Like, you got Alabama, the University of Alabama, don't have those beautiful buildings and all that stuff because it's just killing it academically, right? They have a football legacy program. I want to just say though, right? Like, there's a commerce side to this. But Miss Toya brought up a really good point, and I need to clarify. She said she tried Catholic schools, and now she's Baptist. So for the record, this law is impacting public schools in Texas. So traditional schools and charter schools. You can have parochial schools. Like there are Catholic schools, there's Muslim schools, there's a bunch of like those are private schools, and you can do pretty much what you want on those campuses. The controversy is that this is crossing over into the public realm where there's statutes and constitutional separation of church and state. So I appreciate that comment, because I think for the average person that's listening that don't work in this stuff, I think that we needed to make that very clear. And also, by the way, a lot of non-Catholic people send their kids to Catholic schools, a lot. Jubilee, let's go ahead and get you, and then since you kicked us off, Omar, I'm gonna throw it to you after Ju.
Yeah, I mean, the spiritual side of Jubilee would say, if you put Jesus up in these schools in a healthy way, this world will be a different place. Mm-hmm. I that's my personal belief. And then the other side is that I think that this whole chaplain thing could work with balance. Where would the fallout happen? But lack of inclusivity and judgment. Not being able to accept all students. I think if you're going to be a chaplain that's now working in the school system, then that has to be a foundational belief that, like, I think no matter what color you are, what religion you are, what race you are, what creed you are, whatever your sexual orientation is, gender expression, all those things, that you are accepted. And I am not going to Bible bash you, beat you up about whatever it is you believe. Like, if you are a devil worshiper, you come in and two horns. Am I gone or am I back?
You're back.
I don't know what my internet is doing today, because I want you to know that it was not doing that all day. Now you want to wait till I get on the South Star and act up.
I don't know. It's
because we're talking about Jesus. Sometimes that happens.
Well,
but no,
gotcha.
but that's all I'm saying. I just think, like, I don't think this is hard. I think it can be complex because there's layers to it. But I think if the agenda is really to try to bring religion to school and Bible beat people, I'm not with that. That comes with when it's not healthy, it comes with a lot of judgment, and it comes with a lot of exclusion, which I will never co-sign. Right. But if you are saying that, you know what, we can train these people, right, over a course of time, maybe around 6 months to a year, to get them this at least basic skill set on how to embrace every single human being that walks through these school doors, I think it can help. These kids need somebody to talk to. If there was, God forbid, a mass shooting or something terrible that happened in the school community, they're gonna call chaplains. My parents are chaplains. My parents are pastors, but they are also chaplains. And not everybody in our community where I grew up is a Christian or, has that belief system, but they get called. Somebody dies. Somebody's, going through divorce. A building has, a fire and the family needs clothing or what have you. Chaplains, in essence, are social service providers. They provide a service to the public. And if we have these children who are in this place and they have no one to talk to or feel like, you know what, tonight I might just take my life. Like, would you rather have a chaplain in there to be able to help de-escalate, to help say something that's encouraging, or be like, sorry, we don't have anybody. So, sorry about that. Like, what? So I guess my question is, like, if not this, which with balance and a lot of intentionality, I would be for this. What's the alternative if not this? Right? Who will fill the gap? Kids are going home.
I think it's just the capacity, right? But I think it's just, I think people are not saying that they have a problem with these people coming. And y'all, I'm not a crackhead. These are Centinela candles. It's just bees out here, and these bees is coming. I'm trying not to.
Yo, man, you
jumping like a crackhead.
You look like Smokey after that part where you spoke. That's angel dust.
I'm telling you, this Centinela candle is not. I need it to work better. I'm gonna just hold it.
The citronella candle is not citronella-ing.
Look, but it's okay.
You need a chaplain. You need a chaplain.
You need a chaplain. Come and talk to the bees.
Right now, what the hell?
Yeah.
What kind of shit is going on?
Why would he be all the way over there?
I am
This is insane. Come back to the screen. They're not going to get you.
Look, you see all this greenery? They want this. It's sweet over here. You feel me? But
oh my God.
I think
I'm gonna pray for you. Come back.
I need one of them chaplains to pray for me. Get the chaplain. But here's the thing, right?
Omar?
It is just the fact that it's breaking constitutional law. Like, yes, how many shows do y'all get cats walking around and doing cartwheels in the damn field? But anyway, but no, man, but I think that's the thing, though, right? It's like, if you let this slide, like, it just really goes against what the Constitution says. So, again, I don't think there's an issue with it. I just think that it's a breach of law. It's a breach of something that we're supposed to hold, like, dear. And if you let this happen, then what is next? What's that domino effect going to be?
Yeah.
And right now, the country is just really caught in the middle of this culture war. And I think that there's a lot of people that's like, nah, do this. This is what I really think it's getting down to. I think that there are some parents that are saying, listen, if you can teach my kid about pronouns and sexual orientation and all that stuff in the 3rd grade, then I can bring in Jesus. And then somebody can say, well, if I can bring in Jesus, then let me bring in Buddha. Like it's gonna kind of, and I'm not trying to build a false equivalence to these things, right? Like I'm just saying, I think that's part of that rationale, and it's gonna be really interesting. So what are we telling our people before I get stung and ate the fuck up by these bees, right? What are we? These bees is coming. You can't even call.
Shit, man! You got the Wu-Tang Clan on your ass. Them killer bees are on.
And here's the thing: you can't. It's also wasp season. It's also wasp season here in Yellow Jacket, so you can't call Orkin on bees. You can only call them on wasps and Yellow Jackets. Just so y'all know, bees are nationally protected now. So just exterminators can't even exterminate beehives. Just FYI.
They got rights.
Yeah, they got more rights than these schools that got chaplains in them now. So we are at 5:45.
Let's skip that.
Go ahead.
I think I think the fact that this proposal, it's not a proposal, they're doing it. When it's dropped into this like 2023 culture war environment, it's probably harder to think objectively about it. Like my head goes to like, it's either really good or it's really bad. But I think about like to juxtapose that concept with what's happening in California now with school districts that are pushing back on the idea that if a child, expresses their, something about like they want to like change genders, right? Like I'm a transgender, and I told my teacher, like the teacher is not allowed to tell the parents, right? If the child does not want them to, right? And I'm like, as a parent, I'm like, well, number one, you probably have some kind of parenting issue because you have a breakdown in communication with your child. But like they really believe, like in order to keep children safe, they want to like hold that information from parents, right? And this feels like bringing chaplains in, to me doesn't feel as extreme, but it just feels like polar opposites of, this culture war that we're in. So, one's happening in Cali, one's happening in Texas, right? That's another topic for a future show that we should do, because it's heating up right now in California, and school districts are like, they're passing, they're changing their bylaws or whatever to say that like they're not gonna do that, right? And there's a lot of districts are coming under heat, and the language is coming out again that they're calling these people like extremists and MAGA right wingers, and I'm like, well, maybe parents just should be informed. Like if your kid is not turning in homework, well, I take that back because most schools don't call parents when the kids aren't doing homework. But I'm like, you expect schools to inform parents about what's happening with children in schools, right? And that's part of it. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like those two things are kind of connected in a strange way.
I mean, look, I feel you all. Like, I've got weird feelings about this entire scenario because on one end, it's like, cool, listen, like, again, Jubilee brings up an excellent point. It's like, okay, what's the substitute for this? And honestly, like part of the substitute is ensuring that counselors, and that's why they passed that law that they're doing their counseling 85% of the time, is actually that the counselors are doing the counseling. The problem is that you got these counselors not doing the counseling, and then no one's holding that counselor in any way, shape, or form accountable. And like David brings up an excellent point, because you have an $80 million football stadium, but then you can't afford more counseling, solid social emotional learning, or even just like systemic changes in your schedule to allow an advisory where there's curriculum where dude, the curriculum of advisory and social emotional learning goes so far in allowing kids to be able to have an outlet to express the confusion of what's going on in their lives. Some kids just need an outlet. But then I want to take us down this path, and David's very, very much right. According to Leviticus, some kid goes in there, especially in Texas, and is like, yo, I'm not feeling like attracted to the opposite sex. And then that chaplain is like, oh, you're going to be cast into hell. because that is what Leviticus says. And so long as we're going on some old school, Old Testament shit, then is that chaplain going to be like, hey, we're all going to die, so you need to go have sex with your daughters like Lot did because you got to repopulate the earth? Or how about behead your wife because she didn't get the sewing correctly and used 2 cross threads? Both those things found in the Bible. So are we going to start going on like this roller coaster of biblical stuff? Incorporate it? Yeah, push me all you want.
I would just say the devil's advocate. Pun intended, but the devil's
you
advocate.
gotta
the
be
devil.
an
You
angel's
can't
advocate.
be my advocate.
Well, listen.
You can advocate on my behalf.
Well, that's not the proper term, but whatever. I would just say this, right? This is what those people might argue, and this is not my argument, but just for the sake of logical conversation and debate. And this is actually a bigger problem to me is they'll say, well, look at our prisons. Every prison has a chaplain. Every hospital you go to, there is a room where you can have somebody to pray with you, like regardless of what religion you are. And these people are trained to not, have any particular doctrine over the other. I'm just saying, I don't like the fact that we're doing stuff that we see done in prisons that we doing to schools. Like when I went to Cal State Hayward, all my furniture was made, like if you flip it over, it was like all made at San Quentin. For y'all that's not from California, that's like a prison. And all our furniture in our dorm was made from San Quentin. So I mean, I think that's a larger problem. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to insert what I think that other argument would have been. And also we're getting up to that point. So add in your niche notes that was so lovely.
Niche note time.
It was so lovely named by One Jubilee. I think I can sit back down now. I think the B is
you're not even on the camera anymore. You just wandering around.
You know why?
Because
I was running around. But here's the thing. Let me tell you what it was 3 Bs. And let me tell you, 2 of them came and sat on the damn candle. Like they came and sat on the candle. Like they're like, what you gonna do, son? Like we about to pollinate out here.
Honey nuts. They're gonna get some honey nut Cheerios, baby. Honey nut Cheerios.
And here's the thing: if Sharif from the 8 Black Hands was watching, he'll probably get this because somebody gonna send it to him. Because him and his daughter, they have a bee thing in the back of their house. Like they not scared of bees. Yeah, they make their own honey. Like it's really nice. They'll give you like a nice package of honey if you go there. They make their own. They got chickens. They got a whole bunch of stuff, right? Because that's how Sharif is.
Shit.
I don't like that nature shit. Keep it away from me. I want to buy it at the store in plastic, okay? But I want my stuff in landfill future containers. But but let's get to those niche notes, man. Omar, I keep interrupting you, man.
And Jesus said, "Let there be bees, but not around Dr. Charles Cole."
Please don't listen, man. I hear all that. We gotta save bees and stuff. That sounds really nice. I don't like being stung, so I will scream anyway. Continue. Let's get that niche note. I'm not about to be out here fighting nature the rest of the night.
All right, yeah, I'll get started, man. Might as well. Shout out, by the way, to Mahmud II, who ran the Ottoman Empire during the Crusades, because that's your nerd note for the day. And Toya brought that up about, what about Muslims, Buddhists, Hindu? I would suspect, Toya, and we talked about it even during our board meeting, that if you were going to do this in Texas, I think if I brought in a chaplain from the Nation of Islam, I might become very quickly the most famous superintendent in the state, if not the country, because I don't know if that is what that House of Representatives was intending. My niche note on this is that we're looking to try to dive into the core issues of why kids have social emotional difficulty, how to solve it. And the thing is that you can bring in all the chaplains you want. Let's just talk about a density problem. So these high schools you're talking about have 5,000, 6,000 kids. I sure as shit hope this chaplain truly is bendito from God and Jesus, because what kind of caseload is this chaplain going to take on where they're going to be able to see this many kids for this amount of time? In my opinion, the niche note is solved through a well-orchestrated advisory. if you have advisories where kids can talk about difficult issues in a safe, contained, non-judgmental place where they can air out their issues, their grievances, and have a curriculum whereby they're at least seen, heard, and recognized, and teachers can assist with students finding answers online, or then being able to find the few kids who need a much deeper dive to go to those counselors. You have solved a humongous crisis because these kids have nowhere to go. Dude, when during math, French, science, and all these other courses does a child have the time to actually go have these discussions? It's not built in the day. It's not built into the structure. It's not built into the system. And then what happens is that, unfortunately, we've created a stigma on counseling and therapy. So that's why, like, chaplains may not be that bad an idea, because at least these kids feel comfortable with like something that feels familiar. However, this goes back to my point with Charles and David. For all those other kids that don't feel comfortable with that chaplain, what's their resource?
Right.
Doesn't it defeat the purpose a bit? So that's my niche note. Advisories, baby.
It's all good. Well, I've been to a lot of schools that got advisory, and it's still rough over in them things. But I got you, Jube. Show us how to do these niche notes, Jube. Jube is the creator of niche notes, by the way. She should make a blog called Niche Notes and blow it up and just become famous for it. But you, Jube.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, man, she already famous.
I know, a little bit.
Wow.
A little bit. She can sing.
You know what? Thank you. I received that in a futuristic kind of sense. Okay, so a couple of things. I don't think the chaplain idea is so terrible. I think I remember a teacher coming in when I was maybe in my second or third year of teaching. He was a New York City teaching fellow. It looked like they found this guy off the street, and he came in. And he's like, you know what? I came in because I want summers off, and I want to make sure I want summers off, and I really think I could do this. And they're like, all right, we're gonna give you this curriculum. We're gonna help you become a great teacher. He didn't last, right? He did not last. He quit in December, right? So it's like I know that there's a bunch of I heard in the NPR. The NPR document that Charles sent, that some people like they don't have the skill set, whatever. You can take people, right, with the right heart. That dude didn't survive because I don't think he had the right, he wasn't aligned, right? He didn't have the right intention, right? And he didn't put all his all into learning whatever it was. But you can take someone who's like, hey, I want to be in this space. I want to help kids. I just want to create safe space for them. You could put something in their hand, right? You can have some control over the process in terms of what is disseminated in these counseling sessions, what they are able to say, what they're not able to say, what needs parental consent, what needs student consent, etc. And I think you could build off of it, right? I think that some might fall by the wayside because maybe they are not open-minded. Maybe they are trying to push exclusivity. Maybe they are judgmental, but I think there could be a host of people who are chaplains who serve from the heart. And I think that's what our children need, right? So that's my take on that. I don't think it's something that you just kind of put out there without some sort of, restraint, some sort of program, some sort of expectations around what should be disseminated. So that's my take. My niche note is don't forsake, family dinner, family breakfast, family conversation, whatever your family unit is like. I think we have this mental health crisis because there's been so many shifts in our world, but also because there's some things that used to keep us, together and connected that would cause us to feel seen, feel heard, and feel valued that we've kind of gotten away from because of technology, because people are just trying to hold their heads up, and some people are working 2 and 3 jobs, etc. And so if you're a parent that's listening, this niche note is for you in terms of just doing the very best you can to stay connected to those children that are in your household, to your children, if you have the bandwidth, children on the block, right? Because that sense of community and connectedness really, really does help with mental health. And when children are seen, they are heard, and they feel valued, it really changes the course of what they receive when they go to school and education overall. That's my niche note.
Are you, David?
Ooh, yeah. Yeah, piggyback on that last piece. I think for parents, for sure. And it's definitely hard now. I mean, I think in general for most people. But making sure that you know, regardless of what your kid or your kids are going through or what you're going through, that you're able to maintain, you know, open and like free flowing and safe lines of communication with your children so that those conversations can happen at home, right? And you know, there might be a time where those conversations need to happen at school. But typically when students, you know, when young people are always going to gravitate towards somebody that they feel safe talking with, right? And if it's not at home, it's going to be at school, right? So I think, you know, if you're a parent out there, you know, thinking about like, how do you create those conditions at home? And it can be hard. It's definitely hard. It's hard for us here. It's not an easy thing to do. On the bigger picture, I think, you know, I'm concerned about like bringing in untrained individuals into schools to do clinical work. I think clinical work is clinical work. We got to be clear on definitions of what we call social emotional counselors, because that is very specific work. You know, it comes along with all the things like the low floor of like being a mandated reporter, but also like taking notes, and like there's like liability involved. I think with chaplains, my other concern is like there's a framework. Is there like a religious framework or a spiritual framework? And you know, those things can sometimes, like we were saying earlier, kind of get in the way of having objective conversations or giving objective advice, going towards, you know, some kind of like dogmatic position. And then I think social emotional learning, you know, like if you are if you're running a school system, like with academics, you always focus on instructional programs, curriculum that works the best for most students, right? And there is social emotional curriculum that can work well for most students, right? Because you have limited resources. So why not have trained school counselors come in to teach teachers, to teach advisors, to do that curriculum, to do those lessons, right? I mean, it's almost like low-hanging fruit, but we don't see it enough in our schools, right? Because it's not about people coming in from the outside to address mental health needs. Mental health needs need to be addressed via like school-wide curriculum. So I'll leave it there.
Well, look, man, I wanted to make sure I got to some of the comments from folks that chimed in. And one person said, Dr. AL said, I train mental health and school counselors and can tell you this move is absolutely abhorrent for a multitude of reasons. This is just another avenue to spread white nationalist evangelicalism using public dollars. Stephen Evangelista said it makes no sense, but there is a white supremacist Christo-fascist movement in this country. So yes, I bet like the book bans, drag bans, and CRT fights, other states will follow. And Julie said, I give it 6 months before lawsuits are filed, challenging constitutional violations on the First Amendment. Yes, Texas is attempting to destroy the wall between church and state. However, federal dollars can't be used to support or discriminate against those who don't have the same faith. And she finally chimed in, the other side of that is that if that wall is removed, it would only be fair to remove the tax exempt status as well. And then I would just add in as my final thought that kind of dovetails into my niche notes is, listen, man, the one thing that came up and we didn't really talk about was it said that every school board has to vote on this. So now for those people that don't really pay attention to those school board meetings, you really need to. This is one of those litmus tests. And this is going to be a litmus test that some people are asking, hoping that you say yes, and some people are asking, hoping that their candidate says no. And you got to be active. You got to know where you are. And I just think that we are in a time with this little war that's happening, man, where I don't know how many people actually believe the stuff that they were saying on either side of this. I just think that people are working and trying to win. And I think when that becomes the focus, I think that students are the people who suffer. When the elephants fight, it's the grass that suffers. And that's kind of what I think about it. And I do think that these are the kind of topics, though, that we got to be covering, because if you are a parent, regardless of where you land on this, and to be honest with you, I have no judgment of where you land. Again, we're talking about a place where a lot of people are religious, and a lot of people do look to that, and a lot of people do want that. And I remember even in my black ass home, when they told people that they couldn't pray in schools no more, I remember my grandmother was like, pray wherever I want to pray, or I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna do that, right? And like, so, I actually say this with no judgment. I just think that everything is just starting to become a political statement. And when that happens, you really are on your own. And I don't think anybody's coming to save you wherever you land on this stuff. So what are you doing at home? What is it that you're teaching at home? Where are those values at? And how are you checking in? Because these systems going to do what they're going to do. And laws that I thought were ironclad, that couldn't be moved, that couldn't be nudged, are being challenged in front of everybody. And it has not sparked a Supreme Court. It has not risen through the courts yet to get to the Supreme Court. And here's the thing. If it gets there, this Supreme Court is very, very conservative. So you might not want it to get there just yet, to be honest with you. But this is one of those topics that I love, because there's still room for a lot of debate, a lot of conjecture, a lot of opinions. And we want you to have these conversations at home. But until then, we want you to join. Thank you, brother. We want you to join us next week. Same bat time, same bat station. That's David. That's Jube. That's Omar. I am Charles, and these are all my B friends that are about to punk me, and I'm about to run up out of here. So y'all be smooth, and y'all have a good one. God bless you, everybody. Peace.